Good afternoon, it's Liam Neild here with your MU review for Manchester United's thoroughly depressing Capital One Cup fourth round penalty shootout defeat to Middlesbrough. Yes, that's Middlesbrough, the Championship side, I know. Obviously, it was a very disappointing day for me. I took myself a couple of days to kind of cool off and get some other things taken care of before doing this review, because I was not in the right frame of mind to do a review right after that game. Being an English football fan, a long-suffering English football fan, I know that penalty shootouts are the worst way to go at any stage of a tournament, especially at home, especially against a championship side. You know, there was so much about this game that irritated me. And so I'm glad that I gave myself a couple of days to cool off so that I can maybe give a bit more of a sensible review to the match. But it is very frustrating, just to do a bit of a preamble here. The fact that I've watched, almost 4 hours of Manchester United football, this week, between the Manchester derby on Sunday and the Middlesbrough game on Wednesday at Old Trafford, and I've not seen United score. Fair enough, we didn't concede either, but I've not seen a single goal in two plus matches at Old Trafford, considering we went to extra time, and that is extremely worrying that we haven't managed to score a goal against City, who are arguably the best team in the nation on their day, and that's one thing, but against Middlesbrough, who are definitely not the best team in the nation, even on their best of days, and to be honest, I think this match was pretty close to one of their best performances they could have hoped for. But let's get right into it. Obviously, I was very happy when I saw the starting lineup. We saw a bunch of, promising young players, Andres Pereira, James Wilson, Jesse Lingard, to name a few, who were included in the starting 11, and I thought they looked lively. I really didn't think that Wilson deserved to get subbed off at half-time. I thought Lingard looked promising. I thought Pereira, hit and miss, but, at that stage of their careers, you've got to put some confidence in them, and the hope is that when you put these veteran players like Michael Carrick, you don't want to call Marouane Fellaini a veteran, but Chris Smallings, when you get these first-team regulars who are seasoned, winners in a Manchester United team, you expect them to sort of carry the day, and I think that's where we got let down. But yeah, it was good to see the youngsters in principle. The first half was dire. I've not seen United play that badly this season. That first 45 minutes was really, really poor, and I was trying to tell myself, it's because we've rotated the squad, it's because these players haven't played together, before, but it was flat. Fellaini and Carrick just could not take control of the midfield. They were, Marouane Fellaini, you sort of wonder, if you're going to play him in the holding midfield role, if you're not getting him in the cross to put his head on the ball, then what is he good for? What is he in the team for? And Michael Carrick was shocking, Talk about our win percentage with Michael Carrick last season. He has not looked anything like the player he did last season. I know he's getting on towards his mid-30s now, but, performances like these, if we get any more of them, you're going to start thinking maybe it is time that he hung it up, because he really was appalling in this game. And you can't expect players like, James Wilson and Jesse Lingard and Andres Pereira to step up and set the game alight. You've got to get that solid foundation who can then, sort of give the young players the confidence to try those things. Anthony Martial, we forget that he's probably the youngest of all of them, because he's actually a first team regular at the moment. But he looked, fantastic as always, and it was very worrying, to have that such a flat first half against a championship side. You really, in these kind of cup ties, you need to put them away. That's what we did with Ipswich. You got to put them away, you got to put them in their place, and then you can sort of turn on the style later on in the game. But that first half, we didn't look like we wanted to really take the game by the scruff of the neck. We were giving Middlesbrough far too much respect. When we played Man City at the weekend, fair enough if you're going to, play patiently and try and, work for the opening and play very disciplined. But against Middlesbrough, just go for it. They're a championship side. Yeah, they're a good championship side, but they're on paper, they're worse than every team we play week in, week out. And why are we, not going to a team like that and really having a go? But anyway, going into the second half, I thought the second half, from a neutral perspective, I've not had a neutral perspective on a United game in my entire life, but from a neutral perspective, the second half must have been better, because it was wide open, end-to-end stuff. We had chances, Middlesbrough had chances. Good Lord, no, God knows how Middlesbrough didn't score. You talk about how United didn't score, missing chances from, 5 yards out. Middlesbrough had a couple of absolute sitters. One in the first half where I thought it was easier to score than it was to miss, and he managed to miss. But I thought Sergio Romero is a very interesting one, because having started, at the beginning of the season, in with all the David De Gea stuff going on, we sort of were getting used to this idea that maybe he was going to become our first team keeper. And after he played solidly for the first few games, but then he had a nightmare against Swansea, and that sort of doubts started to creep into the mind. But then we had an international break. Spanish Dave ended up staying, and he's not really had a look in since then, so we've not had to worry about it. But seeing him now, it almost makes me even more glad that De Gea is still a Man United player, just to see what we would have been, relying on as our last line of defence if De Gea had gone. Because Sergio Romero, I mean, he's hot and cold. He makes some tremendous saves. He does play his part, in certain areas of the goalkeeping game, but he's got such deficiencies with his ball control, something that David De Gea makes it look easy, but Sergio Romero reminds you that it is not easy. He almost scored the most shocking own goal I've ever seen in this game. From a back pass from Chris Smalling or Daley Blind, whoever it was. He almost passed it into his own net. And I mean, you just think, I know you're a goalkeeper, but a professional footballer should be able to control a sodding ball with his right foot and clear it, and not almost concede an own goal. I mean, but he did, with that being said, he did have his moments in the game where he did kind of come to the rescue. He had a couple of really good saves. So you sort of wonder with him, maybe he's just not quite that first team quality. And I mean, I know he was brought in as a backup potential number one, but this is Argentina's number one goalkeeper, and you sort of think, okay, fair enough. Is there not any better? But he was hot and cold, and ultimately he kept a clean sheet, so I can't really complain. He was useless in the penalty shootout, but to be fair, I mean, most of those penalties were unstoppable. The first one was right in the top corner. Stuart Downing's never going to miss, but Romero, jury's out on him. I'm glad we don't have to rely on him week in, week out. I don't know how many other opportunities he's going to get before the new year and the FA Cup rolls around, because I don't see De Gea getting pushed out of the team by him anytime soon. In fact, anytime ever. De Gea would have to be extremely injured, more than just a bit injured, like extremely injured, for him to be worse than Sergio Romero. He could probably have a broken finger and still play better than Romero. But with that being said, the 90 minutes ultimately was very fruitless. No goals. So the goalless 90 minutes was very, as we were going into extra time, I was sort of thinking, even if we do win this in extra time, it says a lot that we can't break down a championship team at Old Trafford in 90 minutes. I almost think that we score more easily and we play more confident football away from home. It's a very strange thing where Old Trafford, we're undefeated there because we don't concede goals. We've conceded one goal at Old Trafford this season, and that was an unstoppable bicycle kick from Christian Benteke. So defensively we're fine, but we really don't utilise the home advantage in an attacking sense. We play much better on the road, and maybe that's just a tactical thing. I don't know, it's just something I've noticed. But into extra time, Martial, like I said earlier, he's absolutely electric every time he plays, and we really do look like we've got a player in him. It's amazing. At the start of this summer when we signed Memphis, you would have thought, okay, that's going to be our young man who's going to come in and set the Premier League alight, and Memphis is getting dropped for Anthony Martial, for Jesse Lingard even, and Anthony Martial, this guy who everyone was calling a massive waste of money on deadline day. Even I had a video where I expressed doubts about, is this the big money signing we need? But bloody hell, if he hasn't shut everybody up. He looks like a player, possessed every time he gets the ball. He runs at people, he looks dangerous. This kid's my age. He makes me feel like a failure, and I'm at university. I mean, imagine the people who aren't at university, but God, it's a strange thing that a player like that is not being, maximised by playing down the middle. When Wilson came off at half-time and Wayne Rooney went on, you sort of thought, okay, but is Rooney really going to lead the line better than James Wilson in the form that he's in? I sort of thought, get Martial up top, drop Rooney into the hole behind him, and then play Memphis on the left and Mata on the right. That's our strongest, front four. Obviously, we weren't going to play that at Middlesbrough, but just moving forward, I do want to see Martial playing down the middle again, because he does look like our best player at the moment, and that is slightly worrying that a 19-year-old, is our best player. But with that being said, I don't want to say too much about extra time, because there really wasn't much going on. I mean, we could have had a goal. Jesse Lingard hit the post. But I mean, that was about it. You sort of knew the game was heading for penalties once it got to the 90-minute mark. And as soon as we hit penalties, I knew we were going to lose. Man United have lost their last 3 or 4 penalty shootouts, the one in Moscow being the exception, not the rule. Obviously, that's a really mighty fine exception for us to have. But with that being said, if it wasn't for John Terry's, studs being slightly slippery there, we would have lost that penalty shootout as well. United really don't seem to have the bottle as a team, even when we were European Cup winning level, to get through these penalty shootouts. Michael Carrick's penalty was abysmal. I mean, at least Rooney and Young hit it on target. What on earth was Carrick doing today? Just every part of that performance made me think that maybe he's one of the latest, United players of that, one of those last Ferguson players that's really gonna start to fade now, and he's not had the best start to the season. So I'd love him to come roaring back and show us the Michael Carrick we all know and love. But with that being said, we took 4 penalties. 3 of them were taken by Englishmen. 1 was taken by a 19-year-old Brazilian. Guess who scored? Andreas Pereira. Absolutely incredible that 3 veteran players, Wayne Rooney, who is the all-time record goal scorer for England, who equalled and broke that record from the penalty spot, can't score a penalty in a shootout after he's not even played the full 2 hours. Unbelievable. I mean, sure, goalkeeper might have been off his line, sure, the goalkeeper guessed right and it was on target, but the fact of the matter is you should not give the keeper any chance. Pereira made it look easy, and then Michael Carrick can't even put it on frame, and you're thinking, Christ, what is it about English DNA that just stops you from scoring penalties? And I mean, even as I'm saying that, Stuart Downing smashed his in the back of the net. I mean, what is it about these players? Ashley Young, I've never seen him score a penalty. I mean, good God, why is he why are these players taking penalties if that's what's going on? But anyway, I mean, I've sort of had enough talking about this game, to be honest. I've gone on for longer than I expected to. We're out the League Cup. We made it a couple of rounds further than we did last time, but ultimately we're out before anything really got good. Arsenal were out, Spurs were out, Chelsea were out. This is a real opportunity for us, and we blew it. And that was probably, arguably, one of our best chances at silverware this season. Obviously we've still got the FA Cup to come, and ultimately if you asked me if I wanted an FA Cup or a Carling Cup, or Capital One Cup I should say, I would definitely take an FA Cup. We need to get back on board with Arsenal, having been the all-time record holders of the FA Cup for a good decade, and then having Arsenal level our record and then overtake it in 2 years is a slap in the face. We need to win the FA Cup this year. Champions League, less said about that, the better. I mean, if we can get through the group and then make it to and then win one of our knockout round ties, I'd honestly be satisfied with our performance of the season. And the jury's still out on what's going to go on in the league this year. But my man of the match is going to go to Chris Smalling. I haven't said much about him in the video itself. Anthony Martial was electric, but ultimately, if we can't score a goal, but we keep a clean sheet, I've got to give the man of the match to a defender, and Chris Smalling has been an absolute titan at the back this season. He is well on his way to becoming a Manchester United captain in the near future if Wayne Rooney doesn't buck his ideas up, and he could be a future England captain as well. I really hope that he keeps this up for the whole season, that he stays injury free, because he is looking like a man possessed every time that he's on the receiving end of any sort of attack from an opposition, whether it be Kevin De Bruyne or Kike. He can handle it, and I have a great amount of respect for Chris Smalling. He's rapidly becoming my favourite Manchester United player. But yeah, chuck a like on the video if you've watched it, comment, subscribe, do all that nonsense. And this has been your MU review for this game. We'll be back on Saturday to see the Palace match. Hopefully we'll get a better result there, because ultimately it is the league and not the League Cup that matters most to this club. So with that being said, thanks for watching.